Welcome to the Institute of Jewish Knowledge and Learning. We are counting we are sparks beneath the Omer, and I believe that we are up to Netzach. And I hope everyone is as excited as I am. Rabbi Akiva, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Kim, and Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back, Kim. Okay. If we want to go back just a touch back to Tiferet, the placement of Tiferet in the tree of life is central. It's one of those three. One of those 4 columns in the tree of life that are in the center of the spherotic chart, which means they are in Jewish mysticism they're called pillars. They are the fundamental elemental core forces that keep the right and the left of the tree alive and balanced. So Tiferet is not only in the central column, which tells us something about the power of that energy of Tiferet, which we defined in many ways, but in a fundamental way. Tiferet was the energy behind our all-encompassing reality of existence, pointing to our meaning and our purpose, which is all inclusive of the energy of who and what we are. And all things, basically, all other things are going to be stemming from that to create a tree of life for ourselves. And if you see the placement of Tiferet on the tree, the mystics concluded that Tiferet is representative of the heart. And here, the heart does not mean the emotions. It means the heart that gives life and animates everything else. It is the source. So we consider Tiferet as a source energy. What one would be able to say that Tiferet is our hard drive. What a hard drive is to a computer, that is synonymous with the energy zone of Tiferet.
Should I
And
put up the chart? Should put up the chart for a split second? So
yeah,
that
yeah. That would be nice. That would be good. That would be helpful. So friends, it's Kadai. It's worthwhile to thank you, Kim. It's worthwhile to contemplate the place of Tiferet, and as you all know, the tree of life is also in another metaphor. This tree of life, starting with Keter and ending in Malchut, is also the diagram and energy zones of the body, the Keter being the head and Malchut being the feet, and everything in between. So you see that place of Tiferet is right in the middle, receiving. Leave it up for a sec. Receiving energy from above, receiving life force from above, or from a transcendent place, landing in Tiferet, and the energy. And now today's teaching is going to be, once we have identified and landed in Tiferet, we are going to be extending the energy force of Tiferet downwards from a most transcendent place, level by level, Jacob's rung by Jacob's rung, in a descending form into from transcendence into eventual manifestation. And the first core energy levels that are going to be addressed coming from Tiferet, and facilitating the proper flow of Tiferet, is going to be Netzach, which is translated here. I like the translation, but we're going to be using other translations for Netzach. But eternity is a proper. But we have to discover what eternity has to do with our other definitions of Netzach. So we have Netzach and Hod. That usually go in pairs. Of course, we're going to start with Netzach, but it's going to be nearly impossible to exclusively do Netzach without intermingling Hod. So Netzach and Hod are we're going to start this week, but we're going to continue Netzach and Hod and their partnership for this week and for next week. But you see how Netzach and Hod is the first levels, the first rungs of how Tiferet is going to be unfolding and be made manifest as we descend into Yesod and Malchut. So we can say that as Chachma and Bina, if you see on top, and Chesed and Gevura are descending energies, divine energies and soul energies descending from Keter. So Netzach and Hod are going to be the branches of Tiferet, of how Tiferet is going to be revealed in actualization from its purest form, from its most concentrated form. Tiferet starts branching out and starts being revealed through the power and through the energy of Netzach and Hod. So we can say that Netzach and Hod, just like Chachma, Bina, Chesed, and Gvura, are harnessed energies that are coming from the source of Keter. Netzach and Hod are the harnessed life forces of Tiferet energy. So let's first go to some definitions of Netzach. Usually, in many different other, Kim, we can go back to share screen. Great. Many other translations of Netzach, and in every translation, of course, is really an interpretation. In many other systems, Netzach is translated and interpreted as perseverance. I'll tell you in a moment how eternity is connected to perseverance. But for our purposes in today's teaching, perseverance and stamina, energetic stamina, are the translations that I am going to prefer here. Friends, you have to open up your minds and your souls, and not be constricted and bogged down by one word definitions. Open up that word perseverance and stamina really wide open, and we are going to be tapping in to the idea that everything in life is going to be regulated and gauged by these two dualities, Netzach and Hod. Netzach and Hod are essential, are core energy zones that animate nearly everything within the human psyche in a very recognizable and tangible way. Not as tangible as it is going to be manifested in Yesod and Malchut, but we start getting, with Netzach and Hod, we start getting into the very tangible psychic reality of the human condition. Netzach and Hod have to do with the regulation, with the channeling of like I said, of everything we do and everything we feel, from our eating and food habits to sexual activity, to the human striving towards power and domination and wealth and health. Netzach and Hod include those circumstances and those psychological environments that we create for ourselves and within ourselves that cause agitation within us, also that are the cause of tranquility within us. Netzach and Hod, in other words, in the language of the four worlds, without confusing things, but in the language of the four worlds, Netzach and Hod are really the encompassing the world of Yetzirah. It is the beginning of the world of the formation of our psyches. And if you take it that way, you will certainly recognize how all-encompassing the world of Netzach and Hod is going to be. It has to do with the surface of your psyches, and then the most inner secret places of our psyches, and everything in between, And it's no coincidence, friends, that when the mystics of old transposed the energy forces behind Netzach and Hod, it's absolutely no coincidence on that diagram of the tree of life, representing not only the tree but the body, that the associated parts of the body that have to do with Netzach and Hod are not by coincidence the right and left hip and leg. What is the significance of right and left hip and leg? It has to do with hard drive. Without your right and left hip and leg, there is no movement. We move with our hips and we move with our legs. Take that as nearly an exact metaphor. Netzach and Hod is that, I forget what it's called. Someone, Kim, I forget what it's called. You know, in our car, the console that has a D for drive, an R for reverse, an N for neutral.
Transmission.
Well, the transmission.
Indicate.
The transmission is okay. I'll take transmission, but I thought the transmission is really the inside the engine.
It's
okay,
the stick shift.
the stick
shift.
shift that animates the transmission. That is the Netzach and Hod. It is through Netzach and Hod that we place ourselves either in park, or we go in reverse, or we go in drive, or we stay in neutral. It is really the energy zones that moves our lives, like our hips and our legs. It is the source of human psychic movement. It's how it's the energy zones through which we grow, through which we mature. Through which we drive through life. And our drive through life, Netzach tells us, our drive through life is based on our capacity for perseverance. Perseverance, friends, is that drive within us, that invisible psychic drive within us to achieve and to emerge into life, to be, or to be, or even to strive to be the all that one can be. It's that Netzach is the beginning of that little voice within us that says, grow, persevere in growing, in evolving and developing. And that is inherent on a conscious level and also on a subconscious level. Generally speaking, there is something within the not only the human within human nature, and also in the animal world, and also in the world of vegetation. There's something, think of it mystically, that is saying, grow, grow. From the tiny little plant that you see a little green shoot coming out in between rocks. If you want to put your mystical hats on. Vegetation out of rocks? How in the world? Oh, that's the Netzach energy, the perseverance life force that keeps on saying to creation as a whole and to human beings in particular, grow. you inherently were created to grow and to flourish. On its on the most basic level, perseverance, this idea of continuous growth, on its most basic level, is a mode of a survival mode. That voice that says, beyond anything else, survive, survive, survive. Not only grow, but survive. I remember seeing some nature shows when you see in, for some reason I'm attracted to the Antarctica. So you see these little penguins in freezing, mummish 50 below conditions on the edge, on the rocky shores of the water. And these little penguins are fighting for their lives, and their little things are flapping, are fighting for their lives to crawl on the rocky edges of the shore. And if they don't make it, to the rocks, out of the seashore, they're going to be eaten alive by who knows what. And they're fighting for their lives to come up to some dry land. When I watched that natural struggle, I always thought of the energy force of Netzach. We all have that inherently in us, except for the humans, it is much more complex and much more sophisticated than merely survival. Okay, so friends, do you feel within yourselves that power, that energy level, the light that is shining through the sphera of Netzach within you? Some mystics called Netzach perseverance. Some mystics called it domination. And although some of you might not like that word because it's too dominant, domination is an appropriate word, because part of the energy of perseverance is this domination that we read about in the creation story in Genesis, when the Torah says, "Mil'u et haaretz," fill the entire expanse of the land, v'kivshuha, and you, human beings, are granted the ability, v'kivshuha, and dominate. You are the divine will is to give over creation into our hands, so we can be authorities over the land, and of course using it properly, which we have of course abused, but nevertheless we have in our hands the ability to direct and guide creation the way we, humankind, sees fit. We're still in the process. But vikivshuha means we are granted the gift of authority. We are granted the gift of authority over ourselves to exercise the drive of perseverance, or to put ourselves in neutral, or to put ourselves in reverse. We are in charge. That's what dominion means. We are in it. It's nothing less than we are in charge. So domination points to our ability to self-express. We are able to self-express ourselves and to persevere in that capacity of self-expression. And we are able, like a water faucet, to turn our capacity for perseverance, full force, medium force, or to shut it off altogether. Okay, let's take a little break, and
Okay.
any questions or comments?
Marilyn has a question, and then there's been a question
Right.
in the chat. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Everything you talk about seems to me is only good in relation to other people. Do I plant a beautiful garden if I live up in Maine, by myself, or if I put flowers on a table where there's a family? Whatever I do, whatever life force I involve myself with, if I don't share it, if it's not in relation to other people, but just self-aggrandizement, to me, it does not have the same value.
Marilyn, so I have to guide you in a different manner than what you just expressed. Did you ever come into contact or maybe experience yourself with a person or a mood that you might have experienced yourself, where you didn't let's talk about someone else, where a person gets into some sort of psychic funk, into a mild or even serious depression, where they quote unquote don't feel like getting out of bed.
I never was given the opportunity. That's a luxury, in a sense.
No, I mean in a very negative sense, that the person's vigor and inner strength has weakened, has waned to such a degree that there is no longer any oomph to even want. I'm not talking about vacation here. I'm talking about a form of psychic and spiritual paralysis. There is we are talking here about not, we are talking here not about other at all. That is going to come into play with Hod. But predominantly perseverance here is the inner light that animates my life. And there are times when the inner light is diminished to such a point where there is no more I do not any longer feel the light. I don't see the light, and the energy level, my energy level to grow and to listen to that voice within me grow is so dim that I don't feel like growing any longer. And I am paralyzed. That has nothing to do with anyone else. Netzach has to do with it, with the inner, with we will get in contradistinction to Hod. But Netzach is an inner energy force that says grow, and when it weakens, the voice within says don't bother growing. Don't bother, to a point where one can say don't bother getting out of bed. I'm just using that as a metaphor for when all energy is ostensibly sapped out of you. So I have to correct you that Netzach is talking about expansive self-expression. How strong is the inner expansive self-expression? How strong is it? How weak is it? And what it takes to ignite it if it's low, or to feed it if it's weak.
Rabbi Akiva, there's been some discussion on the sidebar about the idea of life force. Is there a differentiation between maybe a life force that invigorates all of the attributes that's different than the force in Netzach? Or is that an equivalence?
That's a good question. All of the sfirot, in one manner or the other, are life forces bombarding us and invigorating and animating us. The life, why Netzach and Hod can be categorized as a life force in and of itself is because Netzach and Hod begin the differentiation between transcendent life force and Netzach and Hod starts crossing over the boundary into manifested life force. How the life force is made manifest, and revealed actually through the human psyche, and then through the human body, all the way down to Malchut. So it's the beginning of a showing, a modeling of how transcendent life forces are made manifest through the human agent, through human agency.
Thank you for the clarification.
It's like, hold on one sec, let me. It's kind of that point, without getting like crazy. It's nearly like that moment when Frankenstein, when Dr. Frankenstein, when that first movement of the human, of that human that he created, when it moves its first little finger, it's Netzach and Hod begin the story, not of transcendent human, but of earthly human. It's the beginning of the psychic process within the human being, and that's very huge. That's the everything about the human being, is really our what goes on in our psyches.
Shabri and then Canterisa.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm thinking that you use the word self-expression, because when we have that movement of our hand and we start creating ourselves as a manifested being, even though God is doing it, have to be really careful, because we can create our own karma within that. And if you do or you don't believe in karma is one thing, but I believe in it. So that's why I'm here taking these classes, so that I can understand myself a little bit better, so that I won't create this karma, and I would use the attributes to create a better person. What do you think about that, Rabbi?
I believe, I agree. I agree. We use the attributes as guideposts to create and to assist in evolving.
Yes.
In evolving in alignment with divine, within the divine perfection, within the divine light, within the divinity that is within our souls. The Sfirot are the guideposts that teach and help develop the soul and guide the soul.
It's very beautiful.
Thank you. Canterisa.
Good morning. Thank you, Kim, for talking me into taking this, sitting in with everybody, first of all. So Rabbi Akiva, I'm kind of new because I never thought I was ready to understand Kabbalah, and I think I'm starting to connect some of the dots. What some clarification I need between Netzach and Hod. If I understand you correctly with this, this,
Risa,
Net-
before you go on.
and that's an uh-oh moment to me.
No. Before you go on, we didn't touch Hod yet at all.
Okay, well, I kind
So-
of with the, okay, all right, okay.
If you're
I understand.
going to ask about a comparison, we didn't touch Hod yet.
Okay, all right, I understand that because of some
Okay,
of the
go
notes
ahead.
I took in your introduction. Okay, so Netzach begins the showing of who we are and who we can possibly be
Hmm.
using the life force within us and the light. Because it's up to us how bright we want to make our light.
Absolutely. Correct. Our hand is on the faucet and we are in control.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's not until we get to the and I'm not using this grammatically correct, probably, most likely. This is the Netzach part of the Sfirot, correct? That we don't reach until later, until we're ready to have that control, because many of us don't reach that control at the same time. Right? I mean,
No,
we all mature, we all have different life experiences.
No, Risa, I have to qualify that statement.
Please.
We actually have our hand on the faucet of Netzach, of perseverance, from the age of 2. We do not have to wait until we're 60 or 30 or 40 or even 20. The energy of perseverance begins when an infant goes like this. You know, like you're trying to feed the little baby, and the baby goes, you know, they shut their mouths really tight and they go, mm-mm, mm-mm. That's what a good example of Netzach in action. The infant knows what it wants. It knows what it doesn't want. It knows when it's full and when it's not full, and the infant is going to exercise its Netzach, its perseverance, for its own fulfillment. And then that simple elementary example is continuous through our growth, through our lives, through our maturation process.
Right.
We are constantly our hand is constantly on Netzach, switching it full blast, medium, low. The idealism of the teenage years, we choose where we want to go, and you chose, you're a cantor, correct?
Yes.
You exercised Netzach in choosing your cantorial career, in continuing your cantorial career, in excelling in your cantorial career. We're using Netzach. It's not a certain age where Netzach kicks in. Oh, now I'm ready for Netzach. You started Netzach early on.
We're always Netzaching.
We're always Netzaching.
Okay. Donna Levine has her hand up. Go ahead, Donna.
Let me unmute, okay, and take my hand down. In what you're saying, Rabbi, coming from my own perspective, what my thoughts are is that it's not the soul that is learning to develop, that the soul is our connection to source. It comes in pure, it comes in knowing, and then we become human beings and put all sorts of schmutz over the soul, making it not as easily or readily available to the human or the ego, or the identity of self. And the tree of life to me is, and correct me please if I'm wrong, it's not so much to educate the soul, but to give our brains a place to go to then allow ourselves to connect more. And you know how I'm all into this Da'at thing, but to connect the heart and the mind, or the soul and the mind, to remember that this is an avenue in which we can choose to travel back home, or to live a life here on earth that is most reflective of the divine that is within us.
Donna, I would absolutely agree with that. I would agree with that. You're putting it in a slightly different way of creating the origins of the soul is actually pure, and what you're saying is that the soul needs no education in and of herself. The soul, in essence, does not need an education. It is we, but it gets a little it is we, the human behind the soul, that requires proper alignment. Right. So the education of the soul is not of the soul, but it's in aligning the body, the human side, to the light and energy of the pure soul.
So Rabbi,
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
I don't have to say more. Okay, thank you.
Before we start a second round of questions here, why don't you continue for a little while and then we'll come back for more questions.
Okay. So Netzach is that drive for expansive self-expression in its fullest manner, in its full manifestation. You see how vast and how large and how powerful that can be? And that, friends, that energy, that expansive creative energy to persevere in maturation, in growth, in evolving. For those that were in previous classes, I would very easily compare that or correspond this Netzach to what how we described Adam 1. Adam 1 lives and thrives off of Netzach. Adam 1 had to do with dominating, having the authority to do with my reality, with my environment, with my world, what I can do in the most creative, most powerful, most all-encompassing manner. Adam 1 is a gibor, is someone who is strong and creative and dominates his or her environment and takes hold of it and control of it in order to create and to achieve. And it takes perseverance to be able to do that properly. Adam 1 and the force of Netzach is the drive within us to make our own individual mark on our environment or on the world. So I would describe Netzach as that, as like a new translation, a new definition of Netzach. Instead of using words like victory or dominance or eternity, to bring it down to earth is the perseverance of making a mark on our world. It's that drive that we want to be identified as making a mark. And not we don't have to talk about the world. We can talk about making a mark on our environment, on our family, on our community, or even just making a mark on ourselves. Even that's an accomplishment. It doesn't have to be, as Marilyn mentioned before, necessarily to others. Even to make a mark on myself is a tremendous accomplishment. So for those of you with the Sphera chart in front of you, whatever translation they have there for Netzach, also include making a mark. The flip side of Netzach, everyone knows that every spherotic energy source can be, any one of these forces can be manipulated, can be distorted, any good thing taken in an extreme has the possibility of destruction and distortion. What could possibly be the negative side of Netzach? Think about it for a moment. Perseverance, the midah, the attribute of perseverance, can very easily turn into a perseverance for the wrong reason. I can have perseverance to grow. I can also exercise perseverance or stubbornness in not growing. In not growing. You take any attribute, and perseverance is going to be either the source of fulfillment, or perseverance in the opposite direction is going to be the source of inner destruction. If I persevere in listening to others and learning from others, that ostensibly is a good thing. If I persevere, if I exercise perseverance in not listening, not hearing other people, then this midah, this attribute of persevering, is going to destroy me. So Netzach, if used improperly, can become very exploitative. It can become Netzach, my perseverance for creativity and for growth and for domination, for authority, can become very harmful. But don't forget that predominantly Netzach, if you take once again a look at the Sephirotic tree, Netzach, if you go up the tree, still is in the column under Chesed, is still dominated by Chesed. So hopefully within us we make the right choices that Chesed. I'm pointing now. Look at Kim's going to point. Look at Netzach, and right above Netzach is the flow of Chesed. So you know, the mystics pointed to the perseverance that comes from the flow of Chesed. Of course, every I just mentioned that as an aside, that Netzach has its, just like every other one of the Sefirot has its negative potentials and negative possibilities of distortion. But Netzach still is under the flag, under the umbrella of Chesed. In mystical imagination, the biblical character who embodies Netzach most perfectly is Moses. is Moshe Rabbeinu. And we'll go through this a little quickly. Moshe begins his life as with authority and dominion. He begins his life as a prince of Egypt, with many things and many people under his control. He is born with his hand on the faucet. And his embodiment of this energy force called Netzach is made manifest not only in his initial confrontation and battle with Egypt, with Pharaoh, against immorality, against the slavery of a people, of human beings, of the human condition. He sees an enslavement and exercises the perseverance to create a split and a break in that kind of consciousness. And Moses dedicates himself to battle a whole plethora of negative forces through implementing this attribute of perseverance in facing all of these above challenges and maintaining a life of order and a life of liberty and freedom. If you take his life, especially when he reveals himself as the intolerant prophet who will not stand for human enslavement, you have to view his 40 years, beginning his 80th year, when he begins his freedom fighting, until the end of his life, at the end of the 40 years in the desert. The man Moses really is the embodiment of someone who just simply won't give up. His perseverance in the face of his outright enemies, his perseverance and patience, his patient perseverance in the face of the challenges that even his own people put him through, makes him eligible to wear the crown of Netzach. He is crowned with Netzach. Friends, the idea of Netzach, to bring it down a little to earth, maybe you have enjoyed a certain kind of idealism of your youth. Do you remember when you were young, youthful, and idealistic, and your level of Netzach, your level of Netzach, you felt the life force of persevering at a certain ideal or a certain value. And you might have seen that over the years or decades, that the strength of your perseverance for certain things have become a little weakened. At that point, one has to sit oneself down, b'shem Netzach, in the name of this unbelievable human force called perseverance. And one has to sit oneself down and ask ourselves, what do I have left on my list that I choose, that I yearn to be perseverant about? What is deserving of my perseverance these days? Let us ask ourselves, what is deserving? There might have been things in the past that are not, they're not on the list any longer. But currently, and then take those things and use the authority in your hands to regulate and start shifting the flow of the faucet of your perseverance. We often allow, we often allow our elder years to cool down the heat of our perseverance. There's a famous medrash in Parshat Vayeshev Yaakov and Jacob Vayeshev, from the word shave, and he settled. This is when Jacob settles down in Egypt because of the famine. And the Medrash says Vayeshev, from the word shav, or from shav or Shabbat. Vayeshev Yaakov, the Medrash says, and Yaakov wanted to shave, to shev, to sit. The Medrash says Yaakov wanted to retire. Yaakov wanted to retire from life, the Medrash says. I'm getting older. I persevered enough. I'll tell you all the areas of life that I persevered in. I'm getting older. I want to retire. Vayeshev Yaakov, and Jacob the Medrash says, did not want to persevere in life any longer. The Medrash says, Kofatz alav rugsoi shel Yosef. All of a sudden, the episode, that there was a divine intervention, that the episode of Joseph being thrown by his own brothers into the pit, and a whole new scenario and a whole new cycle of destiny is about to occur. The Medrash says that the divine destiny brought Jacob out of retirement. And Joseph once again was thrown into the tribulations of life. And there was a refusal from above for Jacob to retire from life. Meaning, if we want to keep alive, we ought to be able to keep our list of what we are going to be dedicating our Netzach to. We better keep that list alive if we are to live. Perseverance, Netzach, is such a life force that we ought to be utilizing it and functioning within that energy zone until we take our last breath. Within the Jewish mystical idea, there is no such thing as retirement. You can retire from your career, but not from your list of things that you are dedicating your perseverance to. You know, friends, I'll see what time. I'll maybe end with this story, because we're going to continue with Netzach and Hod next week also. Because next week is Hod. But I want to end with this little story. As I'm speaking, I'm remembering an old congregant of mine in Hallandale Jewish Center. His name, he was mamish like a tzaddik. His name was Dan Levinson. And he had perseverance throughout his life. He was perseverant in creating a beautiful career for himself in business. He made it in business. Making a long story short, he turned out to be one of the most generous philanthropists in the past 50 years in Florida. He probably was a significant donor to over 50 or 60 major organizations in Florida and in Israel and throughout the world. And when I became rabbi in the Hallandale Jewish Center, so he was probably 85, and he had an unbelievably respected lifetime of giving and of charitable good causes. And this is the first week that I'm rabbi at Hallandale Jewish Center, and he calls me up to his condo, and he says, Rabbi Akiva, I am old, and I am pretty weak. He died at the age of 95. This is around when he's 85. And he says, I had to stop because of, literally because of physical disabilities. I had to stop my functions in all these charitable organizations. I hired somebody to take care of it for me. He says, but one thing, I have to keep one little part, one little token of my involvement, of my perseverance, of my activity alive within me, or else I'm going to die inside. And he opens up a fourth bedroom to me, and the bedroom is full of hundreds of white wedding gowns. And he says, to keep my sense of mitzvah alive in me, I have dedicated this mitzvah of supplying wedding dresses to poor Israeli girls and women, and I send approximately 30 wedding dresses to poor brides in Israel every week. And this is how I keep my Netzach, my perseverance for good deeds, for mitzvot, alive in me. This is how I keep the light flickering within me. Wow. Wow, what a lesson I learned there. What a lesson. That to keep the light of Netzach alive in us, if it has dimmed a little bit, or if we have become just simply a little lazy, and we haven't strengthened the perseverance in what we chose to be important, then it is upon us, in the name of V'chai Bahem, and live our lives as expansive as possible, then we ought to sit ourselves down a little bit and ask ourselves, has our degree of Netzach, of victory, of strength, of power, has it been waning for no good reason? Have we retired from life a little too early?
Rabbi,
We have 3 minutes left. Kim?
Rabbi, that was so marvelous. You totally outdid yourself. There was so much learning in that, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Sweet Netzach, Maxine. Sandra Puslins has her hand up, and I've been a quick inquiry. If there's anybody who's kind of very new to all this, is there a question that you have that you think is too stupid to ask? Because that would be the most important question. But Sandra, if there's somebody who has the stupidest question because they're brand new, raise your hand. Go ahead, Sandra.
It's not a question. I just wanted to make a comment. Many years ago, I read a book about the Rothschilds, and one of the Rothschilds used to make his children, they were just children, small children, sit in a room with someone who would write checks or give them bags of money to people that came and were in need, because he wanted to show his children how you tie together chesed and netzach.
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Nice, nice.
Okay, and we have time for one really stupid question. Is there something that somebody thinks I really need to ask, but this is too stupid? No, come on, there's got to be someone with the with the greatest amount of love. I offer this because sometimes people don't feel comfortable asking the question if they're not regular questioners. So I'd love to encourage that person. I guess you must be a really good teacher, Rabbi Akiva.
Okay, so friends, we'll end with this. Write for yourself a simple model. See, friends, perseverance, the word perseverance already assumes that you have an ideal and a value and a project and a target in mind already, right? It assumes that what the chiddush behind perseverance is, I have my target. I know where I must infuse my energy. I am just missing the ingredient of perseverance. I'm not persevering strongly enough. I know what I have to do. I'm just simply not persevering. I'm not putting enough power, authority behind it. I'm not concentrating enough. I'm not focusing enough. It assumes that I have a target. What's off a little bit is my aim, is the directness of my focus. So make for yourself a little exercise. And I don't like doing it in negative form, but sometimes negative form is the most positive form. Write down the sentence, I am losing perseverance in ... and fill it in. It's going to end up being something that you really, truly care about. But that requires a little bit more force, a little bit more energy, a little bit more light, a little bit more power. I have to turn the faucet on in this area of my life. Because there is great fulfillment in turning on the Netzach faucet. Great fulfillment that comes from it, and great blossoming and great growth. And we'll end there.
And I invite us that if you have not been part of the 9:30 Omer counting, this week we are focusing on aspects of Netzach with Yael Shai and Shira Abramovitz. And then on the weekend, Sue Gerland will be leading us. We invite you to come to three opportunities to practice. And If you become engaged in it, then we welcome you to register and continue the practice. But each day we'll be looking at Netzach through a slightly different lens, circling back to next week when Rabbi Akiva will start Hod and the Omer starts Hod. If you've been thinking it's too late, check in on your Netzach and join in. If it's something that you've been meaning to do or wanting to do and just haven't started doing. So we welcome you and totally thank Rabbi Akiva for the enlightenment that he brings to us.
Okay.
Thank you, Rebbe.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, all of you. We'll